All right, everyone should see me in Google Search Console right now. So the site we're looking at today is Hanatech. I hope I'm pronouncing that right, Fola.
Yeah, you're doing good.
Perfect. All right. So the first thing we dug into, we're big proponents of Google Search Console. Great tool. It's free. Gives you a lot of insight. It's like analytics, but for the search results. So it's a great way to dig into to find out how Google is focusing on your site. Now I know there's a pile of other search engines out there, but let's be honest. I've been crunching the numbers on some big clients. Google's got a big chunk of the big chunk of the share of search traffic. I'd say on average we were looking at between 85 and 95% of the organic search is coming from Google. So if you optimize for Google, and that being said, being the industry leader, most of the search engines will follow suit. So whatever you're doing for Google to help with Google for ranking in Google, it's probably going to cross over into the other search engines. There are ways to dig into the other ones, but it depends on kind of how much traffic you have and what you're trying to get. So that's why we generally focus on Google. So I'll try to use search engine a little bit more because I hate somebody having a monopoly, but at the same time, you know, it is what it is. So first thing we noticed in here, we dug into the Search Console here. So I'm going to open up the Search Console. And when you go into performance, we see we got our branded names here. So when you're in Google Search Console, you can filter down this information under performance. Performance is telling you what you rank for, where it shows up roughly in search results, in what geographical regions. You can drill this down to all kinds of information, and it's really easy to filter it out. But what we found was really interesting when we dig into pages, because I like to look at the pages first to figure out what pages are driving traffic. Because usually if a page is driving traffic, it's doing a good job. And if there's some minor tweaks, let's say something's in the 5th position and we bring it up to a 3rd position or a 2nd position, that's a big spike in traffic because people rarely go past those first 3 results unless it's very heavily researched or they're a super user. So while we were digging in here, you'll notice there's 3 variants of the homepage showing up in search results. This one's secure without the www. This one's unsecure with the www. And this one is unsecure without the www. Excuse me. And so usually this happens because of something that hasn't been maintained in a while or something that just might have gotten overlooked. So what has happened is for one of the instances of this is in Google My Business. Now, what does it matter that you have 3 versions of your site in the home showing up? Yes and no. It's probably not going to affect search results too bad because things are Google's smart enough to figure things out. But it's really good housekeeping to get this cleaned up. And if you don't have something set up properly, you can end up with 2 variants of your site. So the first thing I noticed, I was like, okay, Hanatech, something's up here. Well, we got to dig into this. So first thing I did was load up the site. And then I'm using Chrome here. If you copy this, paste it back in again, you'll see that the page that's showing up in the search results and it is secure. That's perfect. That's the page you want to show up. Secure sites, they're given more weight in Google's eyes. So you want that to be secure. But you want to make sure as well, the first thing I would check is, are all variants of this URL redirecting to the right spot? So let's try all the variants. So we're going to do the www version. Redirects to the right spot. Perfect. All right, we're going to take off that S. So it's the insecure version. Redirects to the right spot. So everything's good here so far. Now, what was the last one would be insecure. So without that S on there and www dot, does that one redirect? And it redirects as well. So you'll see up here, we've got that little lockbox. That's a good sign that the page is secure. There's no insecure links on there. So even though there is showing up in search results and an insecure link and a variant of this URL, everything's redirecting to the right spot. So the user is never going to notice. Now the search engines though are getting a bit of mixed messages here. So it's very good housekeeping to clean this all up. Usually where this comes from is an old Google My Business listing that had the old URL. So the way you can search for this, you just take your business name. I usually go down to the footer because everyone likes to put it in their footer. Oh, no, maybe not in here, but that's cool. We can spell Hanatech pretty easily. So we're going to look up Hanatech, make a space at the end so I don't get this insecure. And if you come here, you'll see this is your Google My Business listing. The knowledge panel is being populated on the right-hand side. And when I hover over website, down in the bottom left-hand corner, it is saying www.hanatech.ca. We're going to copy this link address and paste it in to see what the URL is. Now, Fola, you can probably just log into Google My Business right away and see this. You don't have to do this, but if you didn't have access to that, then and you had to bring it to the attention of whoever's managing this, that's a way to determine what's happening. Now, we already know this is right, but we would highly recommend updating this to be the secure version. And what will happen is with time, you'll lose these in the search results. Now, what this helps us do is understand exactly what's coming from the homepage. Now, there's an unintended bonus to this as well. So the URLs that we're getting here, the insecure with the www part to it, they also mean that we can segment the traffic specifically from Google My Business type traffic in here. So we can just look for this type of URL, and all the traffic that's being driven by that is in the search. Oh, excuse me for a second. We'll go back here. So find that guy. It's this one. If we click on this and go back to queries, we know that this kind of traffic is being driven specifically by the Google My Business. Now, that being said, there's other ways to do this in a lot cleaner way. So what we recommend as well, we will send our notes on this as well, along with the YouTube video. So don't feel like you have to keep up on everything or write down a million notes. Mike's in control. Sorry to interrupt, but please let Brooklyn in. Oh, excuse me. You're in there. We're good. My apologies, Brooklyn. Welcome to the group. Yeah, the unintended result on this is that you're able to segment this traffic. But you can segment this traffic and still keep that URL secure using tracking parameters. Now, these are a common tactic for the paid ad side of things. And this is the one we like to use because it segments out things. You'll see it differently in analytics, but it's not considered its own URL. So UTM source equals Google-GMB, so Google My Business. UTM medium equals organic, so it lumps it into organic traffic. Even though Google is good at this at this point, it makes sure that all this traffic gets attributed to organic, so SEO traffic, and then as well campaign GMB. So you can segment this out in analytics later. You can also pull this type of information out of Search Console. Now, the other place that we saw this happening, let's see if I can bring it up. There is a sitemap. So if we're in your Search Console right now, and we click on sitemaps, it can tell you what sitemaps you have defined by Google. Now you'll see up here, that's your index. So this is all your pages, and it's the secure version. This is your sitemap tells Google, these are the pages we want you to focus on. This is something we're going to get into in the presentation too, because using sitemaps, we're able to focus Google's attention. Down here, we have that shopping section, which we'll talk about next, and then the HTTP version of that sitemap index. So everything in this guy right here, we'll load it up. Might take a second here to load. They're all, so it redirects to the right one. But what we have is, we have kind of mixed messages. So what's happening is this sitemap we have defined, we're telling Google to look at it, then we're redirecting it. So it's redundant at this point. We want to make the bot's job as easy as possible so it focuses on what we want it to focus on. So the takeaways on this are pretty straightforward. You just clean it up by updating the URL in Google My Business so that it points to what is now the home page. Add that tracking parameter as well, so you can segment that traffic in analytics in Google Search Console, and then get rid of this insecure XML sitemap in Google Search Console. So there's one other. Whoa, what's that, Fola?
Yeah, quick question. You talked
Sure.
about updating the URL. There's also one other thing you mentioned, the UTM. How do I attach the tags and things like that?
So this UTM, when you update the Google My Business URL, just plug in this URL and it'll be in your email. So it's got the part at the beginning that's exactly right, and then you got your tracking parameters afterwards.
Okay.
One thing you want to make sure, and I'm going to confirm this, is your canonical should be set. Yeah, your canonical set. So even if what your canonical is it basically says to Google that this is the URL. So you don't want to do it because of your URL, but this is the URL we want you to focus on. So if I was to change this part to the one with the tracking parameter, and then do a search for canonical as well, everything's okay there. It's the right URL. It's leading to that. So it's not going to think that this URL with the URL parameters, the tracking parameters at the end, is a duplicate of it. It's just a way of segmenting that traffic. That makes sense?
I guess a little.
Okay. When you process the notes, drop us a line if it's still not clear. Yeah.
All right.
Awesome. The only other thing we would recommend, there is a bit of a chain as well. So the URL that you have defined, this one here, the non-secure www version, we use a bulk URL. And there's other ways to do this on the command line, but I find this one is easier from a visual standpoint, show people, and you don't have to get into doing command line kind of content. So this is http status.io. I'm going to ping that into, whoop, put it to everyone. Oh, do we have anybody else in the waiting room? There we go. Everyone in meeting. Okay, so this is what I use for just bulk checking. You can just paste any amount of URLs in here. So, oh, that's not what we wanted. We wanted the URL. So this version right here, you want to check that status. What we ended up with was a redirect chain. So you'll see down here, there's 2 steps to get to the final URL.
Yeah.
That's technically a chain. When it gets up to 3 and 4, it starts getting crazy. This one's not the end of the world, but from a housekeeping standpoint, we would redirect this version of the URL directly to the final result. Excuse me. I shouldn't have hit enter. So this version of the URL, the insecure one, redirected right to it. Now you're using WordPress, so you can use plugins to do this. If you're comfortable in the HD access, you can do it that way. It's not hard work, but when you get it done, just confirm. Make sure you always check your work. It's like math class; they're always going to make you go back and prove it. You know, make sure you when you've done your work, don't do it and just walk away from it, but double check that you didn't end up with a loop or anything along those lines. So run all those variants through and make sure they end to the last result. So yeah, what we're trying to do is reduce the amount of steps. So that was one of the takeaways. The next thing we noticed was there's a shop, but the pages aren't very user friendly. And I logged in and I thought maybe it's because you have to log in. They're not very friendly as well. So a poor user experience is an indication to Google to ignore your content. And we don't want that, especially if the shop is being developed. You want it hidden until it's ready to go. So we want to focus Google's attention on the pages that provide value to increase the likelihood of qualified organic traffic. So there's 2 ways that this shop is being found by Google. One is through the menu, online shopping. We get into the shopping page and explore a handful of these URLs as well. The cool thing is you've got some really specific content. It looks to be, I don't know a lot about this type of material, but a lot of these URLs are on second page. So you've got the right signals there, but you're not providing a good user experience. So until these pages are ready to go, we would highly recommend hiding this section. The other thing we noticed, so besides having that link in the navigation, you also have a sitemap that's specific to the shopping section as well. So this is telling Google to pay attention to all these shopping pages. When we come in here, we can see a pile of URLs. Oh, the sample page, excuse me. Let's go back here. Let's see if I can get this one to open up here. No. Shopping blog. So it seems to be a bunch of different URLs. So I would really hide this shopping section until it's ready to go. This shopping section does look like it would be powerful when it is ready to go. So when we ran this third-party tool called Ahrefs, if we go into, excuse me, we go in here and do it for shopping, an example, no. I'm not through again. You've got some great opportunities here for when you're ready to go. So we would highly recommend hiding it for now, and then when you got things going. So for an example, this page, the LHG5, 47th position. Okay, it's not really, oh, that's Indonesia. Let's change this to all countries. There, we got some 22, 24, 26. So this is third page. It's not quite striking distance, which considering what these pages look like this one right here, the HG one, if we bring it up. There's price on here, there's description, but like the page is kind of pushed down. So I feel like this it wasn't meant to go live fully, and I'd love to know exactly what's going on, what your guys' long-term plan is for this. But that being said, with how it is, when it adds its live on third page, when this is ready to go, when you've got a proper product page and people can purchase from it and they get a good user experience, pushing these live, you have a great opportunity to get up into first page with time. But yeah, the things I would do is remove that shopping, the sitemap.xml from Google Search Console, so you're not bringing it to the attention, and remove it from the navigation. Any questions on that?
No.
Makes decent sense.
Yeah.
Do you guys
just to recap,
oh yeah,
update the URL on the Google My Business, and then also remove the shopping link from our Google Search Console.
And remove those two sitemaps as well, the insecure version of your main one and the shopping one, because yeah, that's our direct line to Google from Search Console, saying these are our XML sitemaps. We want you to pay attention to these URLs.
Okay, thank you.
And is this shopping section is it going to be something that's coming out soon? I mean, well, I understand if you can't say.
It was probably live, but maybe it was taken down very recently.
Okay. I think there's some really great opportunities there. Like I said, you're sitting on third page. If you guys were to blow this out, and this is one of your revenue models, I would totally look into it.
Well, I mean, it's something we're actually looking to currently drive revenue. So we've only just recently launched it. That's why I said it probably wasn't to be live, because we only recently launched it. I mean, we weren't doing any online sales before, but we thought it's a channel that we could take advantage of. That's why we decided to develop a shopping page.
Okay. And if you need to keep it still live, like for some other reason outside of organic, it's just not right now. This isn't what Google wants to see. So if there's some other purpose for it, you just want to hide it from Google. So removing the sitemap, maybe keep it in the navigation, but setting that navigation link to no follow, and then setting all those pages to no index, remove them from Google's index. There's ways to remove them from within Search Console as well. Load up the removal section. So when you do have it all lined up, you have it out of the sitemap, you can request to have things temporarily removed. So you can remove that whole directory by putting in the whole URL and shopping at a Google's index. So what happens, Google's going to focus on your other pages, the pages that are developed, that are selling, they're talking about your services. There's you got some decent position for smart farming, which really intriguing. I wish I had more time to dig into it. I'd be curious to pick your brain about it offline at some point, about like what the guys' business plans are, because I think there's some interesting things happening here. But from an SEO standpoint, that's what we're seeing.
All right, thank you.
No problem. All right, yes.
Natty was just asking, should he make the shopping pages drafts or keep them online? So what is the real difference in terms of SEO between temporary removals and unpublishing?
Well, if there's some other, like if you make them drafts, they're only visible to you. If there's some other purpose, that's fine. If they're completely hidden from the index, I mean, they could still show up from other links. Like you can switch them all over to drafts if you want. But if you're not drawing attention to them, there's no way for Google to discover them. If they're not in an XML sitemap, they can be live as long as there's nothing sensitive on it that you don't want to share at this point. Drafts would completely hide them from any external user unless they're logged into the site. So yeah, that's my kind of convoluted answer, Nadia. I hope that helped. Any other questions from the chat?
That was it for now. Matt had to take off, but
Okay.
That was it.
Great. Yeah, Search Console is your friend. Highly recommend it. Great tool for digging in, diagnosing. And when you do figure out things, I like to dig in to figure out why they're performing in Search Console first, and then use third-party tools second.